There it is. We're in the 5th chapter of Mark. You want to flip over there? And in verse 1, it talks about going into the country of the Gerasenes, which is the Decapolis. And Decapolis means 10 cities, excuse me. And this was a high idolatrous region to begin with. Have you ever heard of Pan? Did somebody say yes? Who was Pan?
Wasn't he the half horse, half guy?
Well, goat, yeah.
Goat, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Pan. That was one of a Greek god, if you will. And this area, his home was in this area, if you will. And I thought this important simply because of what Jesus finds when he gets there. But it's also the area of Tyre and Sidon is there. What do you know about Tyre and Sidon? They were very prosperous towns, for one thing. But let's go back in time to Jezebel and Ahab. That was where she was from. And so this country is very idolatrous, has been forever. It is in Israel, not in Judea. The Sea of Galilee there is in Judea. It is a high Roman region. Of course, Romans run the whole country, period, but they had a lot of stuff there. That's one of the reasons for the name Caesarea Philippi. It was during his time that, I guess it was King Philip that built Caesarea Philippi to honor Caesar, if you will. Thus the name Caesarea. Very idolatrous area. Also, things in my study I found that Damascus would be included in this in this region. What's unique about Damascus? These are actually supposed to stir up some thought. Somebody say something. What do you know about Damascus? On the road to Damascus, what happened? Huh? Oh, was it converted on the road? Well, actually, yeah, 2. He was leaving there, but also there's a major road that starts in this area and heads into the Arabia, if you will, and highly traveled. A lot of people go through this area, and a lot of wealth there. And Jesus actually spends quite a bit of time in this area. You go to Mark 7, you'll see him back in that area again. And there's some things there that in my studies I found, and I could not find it to quote it for you, where it is. But let's go on with the lesson. He finds a man there with an unclean spirit. One thing I want to ask you is, what does it mean to you if you hear an unclean spirit? Now, everybody, this is one of those questions that anybody can answer because it's your opinion. It doesn't have to be I found this in Matthew chapter 6 or whatever. Your opinion, when you hear of an unclean spirit, what do you think? Everybody's got a nose on their face, so sure they can have an opinion.
I think it's some kind of ungodly spirit.
Ungodly, okay, that's a good description. Anybody else? You ever meet anybody with an unclean spirit today?
Sure.
You say sure, okay.
Is there more to the story that you want me to get?
No, well, yeah, you know. What kind of person do you expect? And this guy here is demon possessed. We know that. Do we still have demon possession today? This is an opinion question.
Well, I've seen some in court.
Well, I would think that.
I've seen some in college.
Okay, you got one here that says he's seen it. Do you believe that? Demon possession?
They believe it.
Okay.
I always thought that was then.
I'm sorry?
We don't have that now in the sense because I can't remember the verse. I think Zechariah talks about God said, I will remove the unclean spirits and the prophets from the land. So that means the same time they both left. But during that time, Jesus dealt with these.
Yeah, they had to, I mean, these were demon possessed people. But now let me ask you this about Zechariah, and I didn't look that up, and I need to. But is it possible for you to allow the demon to come into you?
Well, over in 1 Timothy, it talks about in the latter days there would be influencing spirits. So that's out there. You know, I agree. I don't think we have the demon possession that they had back in that time because they really didn't seem to have a choice. Those demons could kind of take over the body. And we're kind of a free moral nation now, so we have the opportunity. There's probably a lot of people that let those spirits influence them, but I don't think it's a direct thing like it was in the time of Christ.
Okay? I don't believe that they can come over, but I can let them in effect. I can follow that lifestyle, if you will.
Well, Clint just mentioned this a little bit a few weeks ago. If you're filled with the Holy Spirit, right? If you fill yourself with the Spirit through the Word, through the decision to allow, those types of behaviors. I mean, in a sense, you allow yourself to be possessed by that. What's the difference in saying I'm going to let the devil take over my heart and soul? They don't direct your movements necessarily, but you allow that type of influence, so the effect is the same, right?
Do you agree with that? Disagree with that?
It all depends on what you're defining as demon.
Well, yeah.
There's
Well,
Wes says that anytime that you allow something into your life that you shouldn't, that you know that's wrong, then is it, what else could you call it?
okay. Anybody else?
It's not like the puppet master or anything like that. I don't think that.
Which it appears to be it wasn't
In
the
this
same.
case, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Now, these were Jews at the time that the heathen was cleansed of the demons, right?
Try me one more time.
It was at this particular time, the legion that
Uh-huh.
the demons were in, possessing him. He knew they were there. Everybody else knew they were there. And when Jesus cleansed him of those, then this was a group of Jews that was actually in this area. They were tending swine, right? Which they shouldn't have been doing.
Well, it could have been Jews, it could have been Gentiles, because there's a lot of Gentiles in the area that was tending the swine. But it does appear they took up, the Jews did a lot of things in this area as Jews, but there were probably also some Gentiles in the area, and they may have had the hogs, the sheep, pigs.
Would this type of demon possession been miraculous, taking away my free moral agency, taking away my ability to choose what I'm going to do and not do? Would that been a miraculous thing, something that breaks the laws of nature?
How about that? Do you think that, I think it's just as you said there. He didn't have much of a choice. They were in it. Okay, Jesus, and I agree 100%, we don't have that type today as far as taking over the body. But boy, some things you see anymore, I wonder. do we allow it in? And I think we have the choice to allow it in. Kind of like you was talking about whether we fill ourselves with the Holy Spirit or allow ourselves to have this kind of lifestyle, if you will. It sure, if you watch news at all, it sure seems like there's some people out there.
You can't say the devil's not active, because we wouldn't be tempted to sin if he wasn't. Right? So, I mean, there's some level of activity that's allowed to happen. Otherwise, we would never be tempted to sin. So therefore, that there's something going on. It's just not. It's a decision. The people decide.
Okay. I think there's some, based on what you're saying there, is who are we going to allow to rule our life? Who are we going to allow to rule our thoughts, the way we go? Is it Holy Spirit or is it a bad spirit? We don't know the spiritual realm. We have no idea what that's like. Do you believe there's a spiritual realm today? Period.
100%.
Got one over here at 100%. Does everybody believe there's another guy nodding his head. A spiritual realm. Okay. I feel that there is a spiritual realm, and so much of the time since we can't see it, we don't believe in it. And I believe I'm going to live forever. You believe that? Not me, but yourself. You believe you're going to live forever?
Yeah, there's a lot of verses that talk about us living forever.
Do I?
We're going to live forever. We're either going to live in hell or we're going to live in heaven. That's a given.
Okay. Everybody agree with that? There is a spiritual realm. And you've got to understand that a lot of way we accept and allow things in is the Spirit. And the only way I can really even think about this, to explain it, some of you all are very big in school athletics. You ever talk about school spirit? You ever talk about that? Why do you do that? What about school spirit? Does it cause kids sometimes to put a little extra into? I think it does. And that's the only way I can explain what I'm trying to say here about spirit. The spirit that controls us on a daily basis. What is it? Is it one that's looking for heaven, looking for good, looking to do those kind of things? Or is it a spirit that, who cares? You ever think about that? Where does my mind, other than politics, where does my mind go all the time? Anybody else along this line? I just want you to realize where they're at. I think to me, it's important to know what's happening in that part of the country where Jesus goes, and what the people are dealing with, and it's all around them at that time. Well, it's all around me and you today, I believe. Yes, go ahead.
I reference Romans 1:28. They talk about God gave them over to a reprobate mind. And I go along with what Larry said. You let yourself go so long, they're not coming back. They're reprobate. They're gone. And I think that is the closest we can come to a demon possessing us now. If we let ourselves go to the point where there's no return.
Okay, I turn him over. That's Romans 8. That's a good chapter to really get into and study sometimes. To realize that there are, it can control us the way we think. Somebody pulls out in front of me, and I'm mad at it. What's controlling me? Good or bad? Now, Danny talks about that all the time. I do have a little problem with somebody pulling out in front of me and and stuff like that also. So Danny, you're not by yourself. Okay, we're going to go on, but it controlled him so much. Now, it appears to me from verse 4 and stuff that he had some supernatural powers that would come from that direction. And do you and I have any supernatural powers? If we're filled with the Holy Spirit, do we have any supernatural power?
This goes back to the question I asked about was it miraculous, break the laws of nature, the indwelling of this evil, this demon? And the reason for that question is, if it does, then that which is perfect has come, that which is in partly done away with, and it gets a list of the miraculous powers God blessed those people with in the first century. So I think when one was done away with, so was the other. That's my opinion on it.
Okay. Anybody else want to go on that?
That goes back to the verse I quoted, and that's a prediction of the day when Christ comes, Zechariah 13, I think verse 2. All the unclean prophets, unclean spirits and the prophets, and the prophets are gone after Christ, after the idol was completed, all that's gone. And at the same time, you don't read any legitimate claims after the Bible was completed of peace. I think that's it.
And I totally agree with you until I study people like Hitler. And I look at Hitler and how could anybody do those kind of things? How could anybody, well, that's too close to that, without having something wrong with him, some sort of possession. But anyway, I do believe that Jesus, when he went to the cross, tied him and bound him, but we could still let him in. And that's the way I feel. Let the bad people come in. But notice in verse 5, constantly day and night he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains and gashing himself with stones. I've got my glasses on, still can't read. This thing was controlling him. Can you imagine running into something? I don't know, you guys that deal with the criminals and what have you, maybe you've seen some like this, I'm not sure. Watch TV at night. Local news even. That's some of the things they do to one another. You wonder, how in the world could that happen? Verse 8. Come out of the man, you unclean spirit. But backing up, verse 7. What business do we have with each other? Now, this is speaking through the man's voice, but it is the evil spirit speaking to Jesus. I implore you, verse 7, by God. That always gets me here. I implore you by God, do not torment me. He knew what shape he was in. He knew who he was. And I do kind of wonder sometimes if we know who Jesus is. If we've studied enough, if we look at all the stuff we have, do we believe Jesus lived and died so that we don't have to live in that way? Jesus asked him, what is your name? And he says, Legion, for many of us. Now, that always makes me shiver just a little bit. There's a whole bunch of them. Anybody in here ever read, I've got to think of his name. The last name is Peretti. Huh?
Frank Peretti.
Frank Peretti. Have you read some of his stuff?
This Present Darkness.
I'm sorry?
The name of the book is This Present Darkness.
Yeah, he's got 4 or 5 of them.
Right.
And, but he personified, if you will, these demons. And the one I can remember the most, I can't remember his name, but where you know what you should do and don't do it. This guy carried him around on his shoulder all the time. And I thought, well, I know it's a fiction story, but it really made some sense because I'm a procrastinator. That's what I'm looking for. Procrastination. Now I know I'm the only one in here who has that problem. To procrastinate against things. But one of the demons that was in some of these books was procrastination. And I've thought about that since I read the book. Now, it's a totally fiction book. Don't go from here and say, well, Dennis believes in demon possession, because I don't. But I do wonder what power they have, because I do believe in a spiritual being. And if my spirit is constantly looking for ways to get out of going to work or get out of doing stuff, is that because this little demon sitting up here, you've seen the deals where one's saying good, one's saying bad. Well, the one I've carried around for years, procrastination, is a lot bigger than the good one that's on my shoulder. Going on. Verse 10 gets me, and after I read that, I thought I needed to talk about that. He began to implore earnestly, verse 10, not to send them out of the country. Why do you think that is? Here's my belief, or my thoughts. Keep us in this country. We're surrounded by people who believe in idolatry. So keep us here in this country. Don't send us out. How often do we have friends, I'll go put it in this way, that they know they're not doing right. But we don't ignore them. We don't leave them. We stay with them. Do you see where I'm coming from? Anybody have a problem with that? With me? Well, he's a good old boy. He's kind of odd, but, he's a good old boy. So I stick around with him. Most of my time in high school, the guy that I run around with, I shouldn't have. Then anyway, so he gives them permission to go into the hogs. Now this is a point that he brought about, we'll hear a minute ago. It does appear that, and this was a high Jewish country, don't get me wrong, but there was also a lot of Gentiles. Now, whether it was Jews on the hogs or not, I don't know. But notice what happens. They run down and they take over these hogs. For hogs go down and kill themselves. A herdsman ran away and reported it in the city, and the people came out to see what had happened. I imagine that'd be true. Bring some people out, and 2,000 hogs, that's pretty good. I used to raise hogs, and that's a pretty good little clap in the pocketbook. Yes?
Why would the demons rather die in the swine than be sent from the country?
Well, I can't actually, under that, other than that they like the area they're in. Hey, we got nothing to worry about here. That's my thought, whether it's right or wrong, because it's just an opinion in this particular case.
Did they just kill the swine, or did they die with them?
Oh, it kind of appears that they're spiritual beings, so I'd say they're still running around finding. There's another movie, I wish I could think about it, but it's good. But anyway, then the people come and find him, the demon-possessed man. They knew him. He was in his right mind. And verse 17, they again implore him, talking about Jesus, to leave the region. Why is that? Would they be able to see the good thing? Why would they ask him to get out of here? Anybody? Why would they want him out of there? Economically, I can kind of see, hey, we can't afford this very much, but the economics would, in effect, come over Jesus staying there.
They probably didn't really comprehend what happened there. It was
Oh,
probably pretty confusing to them to see, those demons come out of that man and go into the swine. So they were pretty apprehensive of what was going on there.
scared of him because he had that kind of power. I agree with you. Verse 18, as he was getting in the boat, the man, the demon, who had the demon possession, implored him that he might accompany him. Sounds normal, wouldn't it? Jesus helped him so much, and he wants to go with him. Now, normally, if somebody wants to go with Jesus, what are they going to do? Peter and those guys that he went and said, I want you. Here's the guy wanting to go with him. And he said, he doesn't give him the same one as he gave a lot of them. Go, don't tell anybody. He doesn't tell that to this man. He says, go and tell those, go home to your people and report to them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you. Now, this is before the resurrection and all that sort of stuff. Matter of fact, they're still trying to figure out, his own disciples are trying to figure it out. It's along about this time that Jesus asked the disciples, whom do you say that I am? They're still asking. If you go look through it, it's about the same time that Peter makes his deal, begins to realize who he was. Okay. But notice what this guy does in verse 20. He went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis, and that's a region, not a single town, what great things Jesus had done. And I could not find, I told Dan, I was talking to Danny about this the other day, I couldn't find the verse that I wanted, but there's a lot of people come. Chapter 7 of Mark, you're going to find, and they're a lot more willing to talk to him in chapter 7 than they appear to be here. And I think largely because this guy's going around and telling people about what happened to him. How often do we talk to others about Jesus and what he has been able to do? Can you really sit down and say what Jesus has done for you? Anybody? What has Jesus done for you? Sit down sometime and really realize what Jesus has done for you in your life. Or has he done anything for you in your life? I guess that's another way to look at it. But. So he gets in the boat and he goes across the sea. And this is interesting here too. This in Luke chapter 8, I think, that he comes up with Jairus. Jairus falls at his feet. Now, this is a synagogue ruler, so he is high Jewish. And the Jews aren't accepting him, but yet here's a guy who comes to him and wants his help. And I think we do this for Jesus too. I'm in trouble, Lord. Would you help get me out of this? You ever made a prayer like that or similar? I'm in trouble. You help me out of this. And then we go off and forget him. And while he's going through this, I think this kind of odd a little bit. This synagogue ruler said, my daughter's at the point of death. Please come heal her. And but while he's on the way, Jairus is probably walking right along with him, wanting to get his daughter healed. And while he's on the way, this woman touches Jesus and is healed. And he stops to take care of that problem. Now think for just a second, if your child is dying and you've got the physician that can heal him or her, and you're headed there with that guy and that physician, and all of a sudden he becomes interested in this person over here. Do you think Jairus got a little bit wondering? I mean, this is the way it is. You know this guy can heal. your son, your daughter, but yet he gets stopped when they get you a little antsy. Hey, let's go. Come on. My daughter's dying. But he stops to talk to this lady who has been, he just healed her. Well, her faith healed her, I should say, but he has to stop and talk to this person instead of going on to take care of Jairus' problem. And sometimes that's what he does me and you. We can pray and we can ask, and we don't wait. We think it'll be done right now. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? Sometimes our problems, and he's healing them, we can't see it. It may take a while for those things to happen. We want it instantly. Do it now. And he goes there, and of course they come and tell him the child's already died. And he says, no, she's not dead. Verse 40, they begin laughing at him. And so they go there, the three people. Would you like to be one of those three people? Peter, James, and John, and walk into that room and watch what happens? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Talitha Kum, which translated means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Mark puts it down here in Aramaic. Now, why does he put it in Aramaic, do you think? Who's his readers?
That was a common language in that area at the time.
That's true. It was a common dialect. But he goes ahead and explains it for his readers, who are probably Romans to begin with, what it means, because it is in Aramaic. There's 2 or 3 or 4 times we find the Aramaic being used. If you remember on the road to Damascus, one place he spoke to, it's in Aramaic. You remember it was back when they were walking around the walls, who was attacking, and they finally start talking in when they were being taken over by one of the Babylonians, and they were trying to get them to give up, and they're trying to talk to him in Jews' language, and they couldn't understand him, so he finally starts talking in Aramaic so that they could understand, because Aramaic was a common language to begin with. It was also a language more for between countries, because they spoke Aramaic. It became a universal, kind of like maybe English is now, as being something that's more universal. But back then it was a universal language between countries. I'm not one to go big on Greek and stuff like that, but you ought to do some looking into the Aramaic and the places it's used and how it's used. And at this time it just seemed kind of odd. You remember hanging on the cross? You know how you said that? Elio, lama sabachthani? Is that good enough? That was the Aramaic. And he speaks there in Aramaic. Study up one. Immediately the girl gets up 42 and walks around with him. Boy, I'd love to see something like that. The sadness that would just be gone. And it could be with us if we accept not that we're going to raise anybody from the dead. But our life don't have to be misused in a demon position by allowing Jesus or the Holy Spirit to rule our lives. That's where our thoughts go automatically. It's the way we live day after day. Comments or questions?